my guest in the studio is Remy Edmondson, the National Secretary of the PPP. Remy, it's good to have you in the studio. Good morning.
Yes, Sweetie, good morning. I hope you had a great week.
Yeah. My week has been cool.
Wonderful.
How about you?
It's been good.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. So we're supposed to have two guests, but in the course of the program, if he joins us,
Sure.
fine. But we have to proceed.
That's
so like we do on the show, you have about a minute or two to get into any topical issue that you have some reactions to.
Yes. Yesterday, I heard about the suspension, or is it closure, temporary closure, of the renal units for Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. Sorry, the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, and then at Kolebu. And I think it's quite a surprise, quite a bit of worry that not long ago the NHIS assured us that certain vulnerable groups were going to be catered for a period of at least 6 months.
18 and below and 60 and
from
above.
June to December this year to at least help support them. So, and I can't remember reading last week on your portal that you sent out your reporters to go and fact check, and somewhere in Kumasi, one patient indicated that when they go, they tell them they don't receive any such directive. And then to find out that this is what is happening, this closure unannounced for two institutions for depart to happen at the same time, citing maintenance work without any timelines as to when they are going to be reopened for patients to access. It's quite worrying. The Health Facility Regulatory Agency made us know last year in October that they have on record just 14 registered dialysis centers here in Ghana. 7 government, 7 private. And as you well know, most the private ones will turn out to be a bit pricier, so most people would troop to the public ones. And we are having a situation, let me just read from them, that 8 of the facilities are in the Greater Accra region, 3 are in Ashanti, Northern has 1, Eastern 1, and Western region has 1. So majority of the regions don't have any outlets. It means patients will have to travel from Volta and other OT and other regions to the nearest center. Yes, and we are having a situation that all those closer to Accra will come, and then it's been closed down. It's a situation that's quite worrying, and we're going to urge the Health Ministry to really see to this and address it as quickly as possible, because I mean most patients don't even have the money, and if you know patients, I've had friends who have had this experience. It really drains them. It drains relatives, because virtually all the money has to go into getting them some medication, and now they're going to have to add to their worry, not knowing when at all these 2 important facilities will open. So we'll call on the Health Ministry to really get to the root of this and have them open as quickly as possible. Hopefully
they heed this call and do the needful. But let's get into our newspapers, starting with the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page, speak truth to Vice President. That is according to Asante Hene. President should pay tax on salary, committee recommends. This is the Daily Graphic newspaper. Special supplement on Idul Adha, that is inside. Vote buying aberration of democracy, NCCE chairperson. Anya Soutuom, NPP's fortress, poor roads, poor drainage systems. But let's get into the actual paper, and I would like to start with a story about the president, should pay tax on salaries, according to the committee. You're saying, you agree, huh? But let's get into the story to bring our audience to speed. So the president should pay tax on his salary and emolument as an example to the rest of the citizenry. A draft report by the Constitution Review Consultative Committee, and that's what they are recommending. The report said such a move will reflect the principle of equity before the law and accord with the principles of law. Quote, this committee therefore recommends that Article 68, Clause 5 be deleted to mandate the president of the country to pay tax, unquote, the report said. And the report was put together by a 12-member committee chaired by Clara Kasati, a lecturer from the University of Ghana School of Law. The committee, which was inaugurated by the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, Osei Mensah Bonsu, on April 28, 2023, was tasked to review the 2011 reports on the Constitution Review Committee. Now, per the report, which was presented at a stakeholders consultation meeting yesterday for the possible review of the 1992 Constitution, the amendment of this provision will trigger the necessary consequential amendment of the income tax law of the country. I know you have a lot to say, but let me introduce our guests. You're welcome to the studio, Mr. Sapong. You are late, but I'm sure it's for a reasonable...
All the roads blocked.
The roads are blocked?
Even at 6 a.m., that's what happens.
All right, so Nana Sapong is assistant to Alan Shermanting of the Movement for Revolutionary Change, or the
Alliance for
Revolutionary
But
Change.
ours is the Movement for Change.
Movements for Change. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, sweetie.
We just read a story about how a committee is recommending that the president should pay tax. But before we get into that, you have about a minute to get into any issue of national interest that you have some response to, and then we get into the papers.
Thank you, and then my apologies to your viewers. I mean, what I would want us to look at actually has to do with our infrastructure. You know, when it comes to how our civil engineering works are done, I think that there is a need for us to sit down and have a national dialogue on it and see, to have a review on the civil engineering layout, because we can still have a country whereby once it drizzles, there is floodings. And we always say that the drains are choked, but then how are the drains choked? How are they laid? Are we able to look at it? Even with new constructions, new roads that are made, you would notice that they still have that same problem. I think together as a nation, we have to come together.
Did you hear the Deputy Minister for Works and Housing saying that the work that we need to fix flooding issues in Accra is just 2% that has been done so far? Just 2%.
And that is what I'm talking about. We need to, even with the 2%, how is it done? You understand? I mean, we still have very much open drains. We still have drains that are on the surface. And we should be looking at it, because if you would look at the rain patterns that we're getting into, these are not the heavy times, all right? I mean, these are just the surface of it. It just started. And so we should look at it. And I'll use this opportunity to invite you to the launching of the Great Transformational Plan. And it has a component, one of the clusters that has to do with infrastructure. And we are looking at having a national dialogue on the re-engineering of the entire civil works, and that would affect our roads and how our buildings are all made. And,
all right.
And we should look at it.
Okay. So now, do you think the president should pay tax? I'll start with Remy, because he was saying leadership by example. What are your thoughts on this story?
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's just fair that citizens are burdened so much, but it's important for us as leaders, those of us who aspire to lead, those of us who to set an example for the ordinary Ghanaian. Yes, and we are having a situation where, personally, I feel that there are a lot of perks and freebies that go with the situation that need to be scrapped. I mean, the free electricity. I've forgotten the government official. He was indicating that, that's Mahama, sorry, was indicating that when he comes to office, he's going to the free DSC subscriptions and others that government officials receive. In all fairness, yes, need to be scrapped, because when they get so much freebies, you see, the person gets isolated from you and I. So when you complain, if a minister or someone is in a V8, you know how if you sit in a luxury car, it's so comfortable. I was telling a friend, you can go through portals from Accra to Kumasi, you're not going to feel it. So when the ordinary Ghanaian complains, it might be noise to you and irritation.
So you think paying tax will bring him down to a level?
It's like I said, it's just fair. Equity. We are all ordinary Ghanaians. Let him also pay his taxes. And then when we can all be on equal foot and have the equal conversation. But I'm quite excited about this proposal also, because it fits into a lot of what the PPP has been saying consistently for the past 2 years, especially about the part about the president having to appoint majority of the ministers from parliament. We have always found this problematic, because the same ministers will go to parliament, cabinet, take decisions with the president, and then come back to parliament, and that oversight responsibility is weakened. And so they are not able to effectively check the executives. So I'm very happy that this proposal has been taken into consideration, as well as yes, and also ensuring that the MMDCs will be elected. That's also another important thing. We've been championing also, that let's the MMDC be accountable to the people, let the people elect them, and then it was going to stop all the government interference, and then they being used as tools for the ruling government.
Okay.
Should I?
Mr. Sapo.
Yes, I agree with some of the recommendations that are made. I mean, if you would look at what is happening in our nation, I think that there's been a huge call for the reduction in the number of ministers that we have. We as a movement, we as an alliance have actually looked at it, and in the few days when we have launched our great transformational plan, you will notice that we categorically stated that the number of ministers, and I think that my boss has already mentioned that he is going to look at working with about 40 ministers. And if you look into our document, we have stated all the ministers.
Is that doable? Is that feasible?
It's feasible because we have stated the sector ministers we'll be working with, in addition to the regional ministers, and then the number of state ministers we would work with. I mean, there are some ministries that have 3, 4, 2, 3 deputies, and in our view, it's just not necessary.
Okay.
And as to the president paying tax, I think that it's a good call. I mean, if you taxing your citizens, the people you are leading, you should also pay, and then you would understand what they go through as civil servants, as private sector, when they are out there paying taxes.
All right.
It would actually inform certain decisions when you are making them. When you take your pay slip and then you know how much is going into tax. And I think that we have to actually, I think they have recommended that we need to actually re-engineer the constitutional architecture.
Right.
And that is one thing we are going to look at as a movement for change. We looking at actually having a constitutional review, just as they are doing. And this should not just be a word of mouth.
Okay.
You understand?
Exactly.
Mostly, you would hear this when we are getting into elections. When we are going into elections, a whole lot of recommendations will come. We need to vote, subject our MMDCs to the people. They need to vote for them. They should be elected by the people. A whole lot, president's salary should be cut off by half. I mean, too much talking. I mean, let's get into action. They are beautiful recommendations.
Okay. All right. Let's get into more stories in the Daily Graphic. Keta youth angry over death of landlord in cells. This is a rather sad story. Wow. Some man, Mr. Pesenu, was arrested and died in police custody. The youth are saying that he was beaten to death. They're saying that he fell ill and he was rushed to the hospital, and that's where he died. But let's get into the story to bring you up to speed, and then we take our reactions. The youth in Keta have called on the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, to interdict the officers involved in the death of Jerry Kwesenu, an indigene who died soon after he was arrested in his house and sent to the police station. They said everything pointed to the fact that Mr. Kwesenu died as a result of the brutality meted out to him during his arrest and when he was sent to the police station. Addressing journalists last Monday at Keta, the chairman of the youth desk, Bernard W.K. Doe, said the interdiction would pave the way for a thorough investigation into the circumstances that led to Mr. Kwesenu's death. He further described the conduct of the officers as unprofessional, unethical, barbaric, inhumane, saying that the treatment of Mr. Kwesenu led to his untimely death. And so the youth of Keta appealing to the IGP for justice. Let's hold on this. Let me add this story about locked up consignments at our port.
Right.
I'll clear medical consignments within 2 weeks. That is according to Dr. Okoboy. And that story is on page 35 of the Daily Graphic. The Minister of Health, Dr. Bernard Okoboy, has pledged to ensure the clearance of medical commodities from the Global Fund at the Tema port within 2 weeks. Quote, in 2 weeks, I will not be encouraged if there are 1 or 2 more containers left at the port. If by 2 weeks we still have containers at the port, you will not see me here. I will be sitting right at the port with them until everything comes out. We are committed to getting the containers in. And for me, irrespective of the bureaucracies involved and all that, I've given myself 2 weeks, he added, and attributed the delay in clearance of the commodities to lack of coordination between his ministry and the Ministry of Finance and the processes the government had to go through to clear the commodities. This particular story comes to me as a surprise. Yesterday, I was speaking with the ranking member on Parliament's Health Committee, Kwabena Minta Kando, And he was saying that not only do these Global Fund, not only do they give us free medical supplies,
give us some money.
They also pay 1% of the total amount to aid in clearing these goods from the port.
Yes.
And after what, I don't know whether he said the first year or second year, our government went to these people, went to Global Fund and said that we've increased our charges, and so the 1% is no longer enough. And then so much bureaucracies and politics, and that's what's resulted in the delay. And so now, after giving them a 24-hour ultimatum, the minority said, 24-hour ultimatum, fix it. And now the minister is saying that he will fix it in 2 weeks. There was a lot of, ruckus, I think, beginning of this year, and about 45 of those containers were cleared. And now here we are again saying that in 2 weeks' time, if it's not cleared, he will sit at the ports and ensure that everything is cleared. I don't know about you, gentlemen, but let me hear your thoughts on this. Remy.
So this issue started sometime last year, yes. And I'm also as perplexed as you are, because I find it quite unfortunate and quite insensitive from this government to, a chunk of these drugs are also for HIV patients. And these are also people who are quite vulnerable. I mean, we have conversations with friends, medical practitioners who share information about some of the challenges that some of these patients go through. So there were lots of calls last year when this issue broke out from a lot of these interest groups for the government to, it was just recently I got to know about this 1% money that the Global Fund sends in addition. So it's unfortunate that the government did not prioritize and then waited for, now they're saying that this 7.4 million they've released is for demurrage charges. So I wonder why would third party, mind you, third party, yes, and it feeds into certain allegations that this whole thing seems to have been deliberately orchestrated, because if you knew that I'm not sure that as of last year these charges amounted to so much. So the question is, why did the government not take the steps to pay whatever money is needed to be paid to clear these goods?
And what did they do with the 1%? Well, anyway, finish.
Yes, and my worry is that about I think about 25% of these drugs are close to expiring sometime. Yes, very soon. So if we're not careful, by the time they clear them, and as to whether they even the money has really been, because we're going to come to that. We were told Jumso is going to be fixed permanently, and now we are hearing that there's going to be an extra 3 weeks for plant maintenance. So I'm hoping that this will be true and that the drugs will be cleared, so that the patients who need these drugs will be served as quickly as possible.
We'll be here in 2 weeks' time, right? Posterity will always tell. But Mr. Sapo?
Sweetie, this is a clear lack of patriotism and sense of agency on the part of the officers who are at the ports and who are in charge to have worked it out to get these drugs cleared. So an organization sits and realizes that we need some medication. And to me, this actually should be a matter of national security, because we have patients who are in the hospitals that are not getting these medications. And if they do not get these medications, they will die. Now, how much would it cost us to bring a life back? That is, if it is possible. And how much would it cost us to get these medications off the ports and to our hospitals? There's a clear lack of the sense of agency and patriotism. Sweetie, these are government agencies. Do they not have a line of coordination? Now, you are able to give tax incentives and so forth to private entities, and they put monies into their pockets. And you are not able to give the Ministry of Health and its agencies that level of benefit to clear these medications that are for our own citizens. If these containers were actually for a private hospital whatsoever, maybe we could look at it from another angle. But these medications are for the state, they are for government, they are for our citizens, people who need them. And I'm told that more than 50% of these medications that are locked up in our ports are actually for essential medication, HIV, and tuberculosis.
Yeah.
And we sit aloof, unconcerned. I say we sit aloof because they have been at the port for so many days that I'm told that some of the containers are near expiration. And so how much is it going to cost us if we are going to go into the world market to go buy these same medications for our patients? There's a clear lack of sense of urgency and patriotism.
Okay.
If they actually have the people at heart and they think that every life in Ghana is important, they wouldn't sit down to do this paperwork. These are professionals. They should know that at some level of urgency and for lack of a better expression, in some level of emergencies, okay, you need to actually act first before you come back behind your desk to, coordinate and to put papers together. Okay. But if they would want to do these things first, I wonder. It's the same government. I mean, we are taking the taxes at the ports. Who are you going to give to?
I hear the ministry said they've received the money. So let's see how it goes in 2 weeks.
I mean, it's still, they are receiving the money to the ports. The ports are going to receive it to January, right? And January will send it back to Ministry of Finance.
It beats my, I don't understand. On this ongoing ambulance case, that story is on page 2. It's inaccurate to claim ambulances are unfit for purpose. That is according to businessman Richard Jakpa. The businessman accused with the minority leader of causing financial loss to the state has told the Accra High Court that there is no basis for the ambulances to be declared as unfit for purpose. Explaining under cross-examination by counsel for Dr. Kasiel Atuforsen, Dr. Abdul Bamba, the businessman, Richard Jakpa, said the ambulances were not meant to be used immediately. He said after the ambulances had been delivered, his principal, Big C, was supposed to provide technical support to train paramedics in the country on how to use the equipment in the ambulance before officially handing the vans over to the government for commissioning and usage. Quote, so the claim by prosecution and the judge that all parties have agreed that the ambulances were not fit for purpose is factually inaccurate. I have never admitted in court that the ambulances were not fit for purpose because they were not meant to be used in the first place, he said. But this case is, we are seeing a lot of he said, she said, I did this, I didn't do that. I wish I could skip forward to the end of it to see whether someone will actually be prosecuted. And the issue about this leaked audio recording, secret recording, not having any effects on the case, doesn't change anything, doesn't recuse the accused of the crime being committed. What are your thoughts, though? And now we are saying that really there was no reason to be making any issue because the ambulances were not meant to be used immediately. They were supposed to go through some technical changes, train paramedics and all that. So what, we were not patient enough? Remy?
Yes, as I said earlier the last time, I would still urge the Attorney General and his team to prioritize retrieving the 2.3 million euros in contention here. No one is saying that. It seems the focus, much of the focus has been getting these two accused people jailed. And I quite remember it came out clearly that there was an offer. If you remember, the Big C company, made an offer to pay about 2 million euros, and I think take back the vans as well in contention. And then if the AG would discontinue the prosecution of these two people.
Right.
It's good that, I'm sure, yes, we all want that there should be a deterrent, that these kind of losses to the states shouldn't occur again. But again, for me, it doesn't make sense to me that if we go ahead and prosecute these to jail them, if that becomes the outcome, and then we don't get the money.
Yeah.
What purpose does it serve? So it's one angle that I want to see the AG pursuing very strongly. But again, day in and day out, new stories come out. What I have here on my front page says Jakpa says that he actually met Damien a couple of times at night around 10:30 p.m. That's also a new revelation, and more allegations. And these were actually said in court. More allegations about being coached. About looks like per his allegation, the goal is to get Atuforsin jailed, and then his seat is actually the price at stake here. So we all want to see a closure of this, but it's quite worrying that the more and more of these issues seem to cast a slur once again on the AG position,
right?
Which is quite worrying. And since he didn't take the judge's advice to recuse himself from this, we're going to see a lot more of this coming then.
And now they're halting government's business because minority says they are going to court, they're boycotting parliament in solidarity with their leader. But Mr. Sapong.
Chidi, this, in my view, this is a cock and bull story.
Oh, okay. How so?
You see, we all know and we all understand what it takes to have a contractual agreement. There are specifications, all right? Now, when you have been given a contract to supply, on delivery, they would have to inspect whatever product or item you have supplied. They inspect it based on the specifications they had given in the contract.
Right.
There are timelines to the contract. We all know. So for you to come out and tell us that when you had delivered the items, you were not expecting us to have used it at the time, but on a later date, and then some training, blah, 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 all should have been part of the contractual agreement.
Okay.
And if it is, then I think that he has a responsibility to make us see what went into the contract, what specifications were there, what the timelines were, and indeed if the ambulances, when delivered, had met these standards. On the other hand, I think that Ghanaians are fed up with the way and manner in which the NDC and the NPP try to deal with issues of corruption. They try to play with our minds. At this crucial hour, then you would have the minority also come in to tell us that they're going to halt Parliament because their leader would be in court. At a point, you would notice that the NPP, that's the majority, would also bring us another. I'm surprised they've not held a press conference yet. They would also come and tell us another story, and they will say that, okay, they are going to bulldoze their way through. We are in this country. We are in the majority. The ordinary citizens are in the majority. We are tired of the way they handle the issues of corruption. We are tired. I still cannot think how we would say that a supplier comes to us, tells us that, listen, okay, I have not met your specifications. Bring me back my products, my items. Let me give you back your money. That is one aspect of it. If we've taken it and we think that there is still that aspect of criminality that we ought to prosecute.
So you believe that this is actually some vendetta against the minority leader?
This is a clear sign of both parties not willing to serve Ghana properly.
Right.
They are not willing to put the nation first, but their own selfish, partisan interest.
Right. Let's get into one last story and then I'll come to you. Speak truth to Vice President, according to Asante Otumfuo said to the second, has asked the handlers of the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to be truthful to him and not be moved by their parochial interest. He said the team should be frank with him if things are not going well, so he can re-strategize rather than allowing him to go astray. Otumfuo said the objective should be collective interests of the team and that of the party, which should be able to guide him on his campaign tour. Asante gave the advice when the vice president paid a courtesy call on him at the palace last Wednesday as part of his campaign tour of the region. Do you think that it's the people around the vice president, or the president in this case, let me add all of them together because they're the ruling party, that are not being truthful to the president and the vice president? Remy was just saying that if you sit in a V8 and you're driving on a deplorable road, you can't really feel the impact compared
you don't hear
to
the
people
noise.
who live in those communities or who use cars like mine, that you feel every impact, you know. So is it that they are shielded in a way, and so the onus falls on the people around them to tell them that, listen, Ghanaians are not doing so well. Listen, one tomato costs 5 cedis. Is it the case that they are not telling our leaders, our duty bearers, the truth, because they are shielded from the reality that we have to face?
Sweetie, I would rather, my take is that the Vice President, His Excellency Dr. Bawumia, is the one who is not even being truthful to Ghanaians. You see, we've had a litany of pledges and promises from him ever since he secured the nomination for the MPP flag bearership. And more worrying is the fact that I expected him to have owned up to the failures of this government, of which he is a very integral part of. But for me, that would have been the ultimate. But rather than that, he's rather moved away, saying that I'm not a part, though I am the current sitting vice president, all that has gone on, I'm not a part of it. And now give me power before I can fix. It's just unfortunate. If he cannot own up to the failures, I thought it would have just been nice to admit to Ghanaians that, look, we know we have not performed up to par. Yeah. But then, yes, I'm seeking power so that when I can come, I can work with you to fix A, B, C, D. That admission, I think, would have gone down very well with most well-meaning Ghanaians. But the fact that you're refusing to admit your involvement in this, I mean, you were touted as the economic guru, the economic messiah. And these were, I mean, Dr. Bawumia endeared himself to Ghanaians because of his series of lectures prior to 2016 against the then Mahama government. This was what made him famous in Ghana. This was what catapulted him to fame. Now, all of a sudden, we've seen you disappearing from the financial scene, refusing to accept any blame or even any involvement in it. And now, always speaking on any other issue except the financial situation we are in, which is what the bread and butter issues affecting you were talking about the tomatoes issue. Yes, these are the bread and butter issues that the ordinary Ghanaian is concerned about. But he's gone mute on it and refusing to speak. That, for me, excuse me, with all due respect, is a bit of dishonesty. You understand? So if you are not going to speak on the issue and admit your involvement, that for me is itself a biggest. It means that whatever truth you are told, you're not going to even listen to it. So I'm very sure he's very much aware of what is going on, but has chosen not to speak on them. Look for easy, low-hanging issues that he can speak about. Busy going about commissioning. I saw in my headline here, in one of the articles here, it talks about these laptops. In fact, let's get into your paper now. Yes, I mean, sharing laptops here and there. Mr. Sapon, did you want to react to the call from Otumfuo that the people around him should tell him the truth?
Of course, I think that the president and the vice need to be told the truth. You know, if you look at what is happening to our economy now, and as my brother said, when Alhaji was being selected to pair with Nanado those times, the reason why the NPP then as a party had accepted him was because Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, had presented him as the person who was going to fix everything that had gone wrong with our economy. And today, I think, last week I was here on Friday, so on Saturday I went to the market. I bought tomatoes for 150 Ghana cedis. I got 45 pieces of the fruits. You counted it?
yes, you counted. Yes. At this stage, you counted it.
You're counting how many pieces of tomatoes you get for 100 and what?
50 Ghana cedis. Yeah. I got 45.
Okay.
Now, when I did the calculation, it means that I bought one for 3 cedis, 33 pesos.
You're lucky.
So I'm just trying to, maybe you bought yours somewhere. I bought mine from inside the market. Okay. So at that level, if I'm getting one for 3 cedis, 33 pesos, then it means that things are really gone bad.
Right.
Today, the dollar rate, they don't want us to say it, but it's about the 15 cedis or so. When you have gone to your own bank and you would ask them what the rate is, they will tell you that, come sit down and let's talk about it. Do we have to actually negotiate a rate? No, but that is how bad the economy has as grounded.
It brings to mind a question. Before, Remy, you get into your paper, I don't know if we have time. Do you think that we are not speaking up enough? I remember, do you remember this? Mima Odumso, yeah, Mahama.
Oh, there is so
do you
much.
remember the number?
Sweetie, I'm not cutting you short. There is so much fear in our system now.
Fear?
Yes.
I think Ghanaians talked up a storm when we were, experiencing hardship under former President Mahama's regime, compared to how much we're speaking up now.
That is when you have a regime that would allow you to speak and would not. They would not. They are. I don't know. When leadership is not vindictive and would not chase after you and your businesses when you speak out, that is why you would have people speaking out and speaking to issues.
Right.
Do you hear the businessmen talk? Speak up and see. GRA will come after you.
Yeah. And this is real. These are things they will tell you privately.
They will tell you.
Privately, but
we've come here because you were on so and so platforms speaking. And so everybody is protecting himself.
And you know this for a fact.
And, oh, sweetie, you know. That is you and I, we know. And we are in the silent majority. That is what they do not know.
Right.
We put you in there. We put you in power. And we are telling them we are taking them out of power come December. Because we cannot live in fear and in silence under a government, a political party that's in government that has always been touted for being a friend to the freedom of speech and all of that.
Anyway, let's finish. Let's get into our papers now, starting with Remy.
Okay, so I have here from the Daily Guide, Constitutional Review Committee proposes 277 MPs. We've dealt with that. The 2.37 million euro ambulance case. I met Dami in Kulendi's house, Japa. Kaswa soldier killer charged with murder. And then the stories are, we've dealt with those, so I'll skip them. But I think that, let me just get to this, story about Mia presents laptops to students. Yes, that's just something.
Okay.
Laptops?
Yes.
They get powered.
It's supposed to be tablets, yes. But this is again another unnecessary wastage. You did a story, was it last week, about the Wi-Fi situation, and then we had this same situation with in the then Mahama government with the RLG laptops. What happened to them? I mean, if students are going to, we believe that there are key issues, critical issues in our education sector, that such monies need to be used to address and fix. We still have classrooms in rural areas where students don't have sufficient number of chairs. Those who are lucky may even have some that they may have to collaborate. Right. But quite still a number have to still sit on floors. This is in 2024. So I would have expected that this money would have been channeled into. I see this. These things are done for procurement to reward food soldiers. Because if you look at the average cost, when the cost that was put out, the average cost of these tablets, it was quite exorbitant. I'm sure they had gone through proper tender and allowed a free market private business sectors to apply for it, we could have gotten these at a value for money. Again, how sure are we that these students? One of the cases made for this was that they're going to come loaded with software and educational material. But look, learning is dynamic. If these tablets will be more effective if there will be very good internet access that the teachers and their students would be.
Well, the claim is that the fourth industrial revolution is here and it's mostly technology.
Yes, like I'm saying that, yes. So
so we can be
the tablets need to go
infrastructural issues alongside ensuring that we are
but that's the problem.
playing catch up.
But that's the problem. You see, you are bringing in something where already there. Yeah. The last point of view is that the last paragraph says that teachers in the school have been trained on the proper use and handling of smart boards and tablets for the students. Do you remember? I think sometime early last year, I believe there was this story that broke about
teachers not having received yes.
Yes, and also the education minister claiming that the teachers have been trained, giving this training.
Yes.
But and money had been taken from the was it World Bank or something? But the teachers also said they had no evidence of such training that had been carried out. So these are some of the worries we have about some of these initiatives.
Okay.
Yeah. On paper, they're fantastic, but they end up benefiting some private entities.
And it's like most of the policies, you know, on paper they sound fantastic, but then the problems come when we start implementing them.
Right.
But let's get into the Ghanaian Times now. Time will not allow us.
That is because we are quick to jump into cheap political propaganda. If not, I am the recipient of it. I'm telling you, I have not received it. You sit and tell me I have received it. I mean.
But I learned they're now, whatever was distributed first was just the first phase. They're now actively going out to distribute these laptops to the various schools. So let's see how it
great.
goes.
Okay,
what
so
does
on
the Ghanaian Times say?
It says that 1992 Constitution Review Recommendation, President to pay task. Number of ministers to be capped at 25, deputy minister position to be scrapped, MPs to cease being ministers. Another one says government releases 7.4 million Ghana cedis to clear 64 containers of medical supplies. National security holds SSS awareness that see something, say something. You say you are in trouble. Creation campaign for GA market queens. Ambulance case in court. I think we've dealt with
most of them.
Most of these stories. But what I actually would want us to look at is the health sector.
Right.
I mean, when it comes to these containers, one thing we should also be looking at is the health services delivery. I think that the Okoboy, having been head of National Health Insurance and now being moved to the Ministry of Health, should actually also look into dealing with health services delivery. I mean, Ghanaians have started complaining. We've been complaining for some time, but it's becoming too many of it. Recently, I think there was a case around Winneba.
Of a woman being...
it's
unbelievable.
In the bush.
Damned in the bush.
It's just unbelievable.
What's happening to humanity?
Because they couldn't find her relatives.
Because they cannot find her relatives. And the hospital, or I don't know if there's some workers in the hospital decided to dump her in the bush. I mean, they should investigate it. But then we should look at actually dealing with our health services delivery. We should have that sense of empathy, that sense of sympathy. That sense of patriotism should come back to us. And I always refer us to the Great Transformational Plan because we have 6 clusters. One of it has to do with the mindset and attitudinal change. And I think that as a people, we need to have that level of mindset change.
Right.
That's
okay.
what's going to help us.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning, spending a part of your day with us for breakfast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, sweetie.
But before we go, a gentle reminder that this segment is brought to you by Endpoints Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering free prostate screening and free fertility screening at the various locations. Here in Accra, they're on the Spintex Road opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, they're in Kronoma here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takoradi, they're in Anaji Estate. In Tema Community 22, in Techiman Hanswa, and Neziama in Zima. Their call lines are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And my guest in the studio is Mr. Yananaya Sapong of the Movement for Change, Assistant to Alan Shomanteng, and Remy Edmondson, the National Secretary of the PPP. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sweetie.
And that's how we're wrapping up for this segment, but there's still more to come. There's sports, there's Benjamin Akapo's blunt thoughts, and a series of other conversations that resonates with you. You don't want to go away. We'll be right back.